Welcome to the World News. Tonight, we've got a video chat with Dr. Izzeldin Abilesh after his 9/11 New Year conference. Now, over to our live reporter, Ishan Mon.
Thanks, Ishan. Now, Dr. Izzeldin Abilesh, were you nervous when you first got up to the podium, being a Palestinian among Jews?
I was not nervous, but I was very determined in delivering my message to the 300 Jews sitting in front of me. I knew that some Jews did not want to hear me and would rather listen to other panelists, but I went there to deliver my message on Palestine and Israelis. I wanted to convince and persuade them to believe other perspectives. I felt very confident in delivering my speech.
Okay, what are your thoughts on 9/11?
I was in such sorrow after I received the news of the devastating event. I felt very depressed about this occurrence. It has killed many and wounded many, and I realized that this must have also hurt families and relatives. This was a devastating occurrence. As a Palestinian, I know the suffering that one could have faced. I've been living with terror practically my entire life. This was a very disappointing occurrence, and I hope that nothing this tragic will occur again.
Okay, we've heard about your conflict with Stephen Flateau. How did he react to your speech?
Stephen Flateau was very flattered after my speech. Before I received my invitation, I realized that Stephen Flateau did not want me to come to the panel discussion because his daughter Elisa Flateau was killed in Gaza by a suicide bomber. I agreed to go to the panel discussion because this was the perfect time to reveal my thoughts to the other people. After my speech, Stephen Flateau wanted to have lunch with me. After the lunch, Stephen Flateau, he asked me, what can I do for the Gazans? This is when I know my speech was strong and confident.
Alright, final question. Are there any similarities between Palestinians and Jews?
There is no difference between Palestinians and Jews. That's why I believe we should bridge the both sides and listen to each other, instead of refusing before we learn.
Thank you for your time, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Back to the studio.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, coming up next, the sports. Welcome back to the World News. Tonight, we've got another video chat with Dr. Izzeldin Abilesh, this time after his Harvard graduation. Now, over to our live report.
Thanks, Ishan. So our first question, Dr. Izzeldin, what did you learn from living in America?
The most important thing I've learned from living in America was not to judge people before the frustrations that I've heard from the government. I confess that I was expecting all the Americans to be arrogant and rude, but it was the complete opposite. The Americans were caring and generous. And it's very important to never judge or expect someone to behave a certain way and never to presume the action or behavior of a person according to their government.
Okay, question number 2. Do you have any issues with racism?
I did assume that one of my teachers was ignoring me because of my race. When I was selecting my course for health economics, one of my friends suggested me to choose a certain professor because the Jewish professor hated Arabs. I decided to choose the Jewish professor because he was better at teaching health economics. While I was in class, I realized that my teacher was ignoring me, so I decided to go talk to him, and he said that he wasn't ignoring me, and I realized that my situation was silly. I was very influenced by my friends, and I judged him before I knew him, which was not the right thing.
Okay, third question. Did you miss your family?
Of course I missed my family. When I realized I wasn't able to visit my family by Christmas holiday break, I was devastated. So I tried to concentrate on my studies during the break, but I missed my family, and I know that my family missed me. They wanted me to come home as well.
Okay, final question. What kinds of differences are there in healthcare between Boston and the Gaza Strip?
I realized that people in America were also very knowledgeable, and I'm able to learn a lot from them. I met the Dean of the Academic Affairs of Harvard University, and I realized that he has expertise in how to create public health policy. Together, I learned that we could accomplish the theory according to public health policy.
Alright, thank you for the second interview.
You're welcome.
Alright, back to the studio.
Thank you, Doctor. Coming up next, the weather. Welcome back to the World News. Tonight, we've got a third video chat with Dr. Izzeldin Abilesh after the unfortunate death of his daughters. Now, over to our live reporter, Ishan Mon.
Thanks, Ishan. So, Dr. Abhilash, do you feel you are being punished because of the death of your wife and the sudden death of your daughters?
I don't believe that the death of my children, my 3 daughters, and my wife Nadia is a punishment. Rather, it is an opportunity to learn. This catastrophe that has killed my daughters and niece strengthened my thinking, deepened my belief about how to bridge the divide. I understand down to my mouth that violence is futile, waste of talent, lives and resources, and has been proven to beget more violence. I believe that it doesn't make any sense to choose violence. Rather, we should choose to understand both sides of the problem.
Okay, question number 2. How did the death of your daughters change you?
The death of my daughters has massively impacted my behavior and my thoughts. I believe that this should be the time to realize that revenge does not and cannot achieve anything. While it is important to feel anger in the wake of events like this, anger that signals that you do not accept what has happened, the death of my daughter can hopefully convince that violence is completely useless. You have to comprehend that there are other ways to act upon these situations.
Okay, question number 3. When some Israelis accused you of harboring militants or having snipers, how did you react?
I was depressed just to hear harboring militants or having snipers in my house. The only militants that I harbored were my children, who were militant about love, hope, and dreams. Well, one army officer said the Israeli Defense Forces does not target innocents or civilians. I was outraged by this remark. There are very sophisticated weapons, and they know precisely what they are targeted: a girl's bedroom.
Okay, last question. Do you hate anybody because of the attack?
I do not hate anybody because of the death of my daughters, but I always wondered why it was me to die in the war. Why did I survive and not my children?
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Alright, back to the studio.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, coming up next, we have the traffic. Welcome to the World News. Tonight, we've got a 4th video chat with Dr. Ismail Abilation after his arrival in Canada. Now, over to our live reporter, Ishan Wanga.
Thanks, Ishan. So, Dr. Abhilash, what's the state of the conflict between Palestine and Israel?
Israel and Hamas were seeking the and Egypt was once again willing to broker. Hamas declared that the firing of the rockets into Israel from Gaza would stop, and Israel said that the shipments into Gaza would start again in stages. But the rockets didn't fully stop, and the shipments remained well under expected levels.
Okay, question number 2. What are your thoughts on leaving Gaza and immigrating to Toronto?
I was excited to go to Toronto, Canada. Our departure was exciting, slightly chaotic, and nerve-wracking. Our extended family, friends, and neighbors said their goodbyes, and I was pleased to go to Canada. I wanted to get away from war and go into someplace safe. I want to start a new life for my kids, and I want them to be safe and start a life without war, death, or any funerals.
Okay, a little bit more of a prospective question. What's your vision for the Middle East?
My vision for the Middle East is a peaceful, secure, cooperative, and united place. That's not going to happen with words alone. Each of us has to contribute to creating the harmony and take an active role in promoting the dream of coexistence.
Okay, final question. How can Palestine and Israel fix their issues and live peacefully?
The only way for Israel and Palestine to fix their issues is by communicating and understanding each other. Violence, war, death, and funerals cannot fix anything. We must learn to commit to understanding each other and to listen to each other. But not only listen, but to speak out for your own cause and for your own rights. To stop the problem, we must force ourselves to stand against war and start believing that war are all human beings. That we are all human beings.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Alright, back to the studio.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, coming up next, we have entertainment.